Welcome back, musical architects. Automation is one of the greatest tools we have to make our songs and music productions become more dynamic. In essence, it lets us record changes in the mixer over time. This could be corrective, like changing the level of an instrument, or changing the tone completely of the whole mix. Or maybe you want to assign a parameter of a synthesizer to a knob and record it in real time. So don't sit back and don't relax, but put your sleeves back and follow along, and you will have a thorough understanding of how to use it, and you have endless possibilities of using this in creative ways in your future songs. What do live musicians do in order to create excitement and to captivate the audience? You guessed it. Most of all, they use dynamics. They build up to a chorus or they break it down in a breakdown section. Another good way is to change the timbre or the instrumentation. Maybe add distortion in a chorus or more reverb in a chorus for the lead vocals. But how do we create these changes in a production situation? It's actually very simple with the means of automation. For example, you might want to change the volume over time of an instrument. You might want to change the amount of reverb at the end of a phrase of a lead vocal. Or you might want to open a filter like they do so often in electronic music to create a rising effect in a section. All these things can be easily recorded, or automated as we call it. Let's look at some examples. Example 1. Volume automation. Volume automation is a great tool to fix inconsistencies. Even though we might have added compressors to tracks to make things more even dynamically, sometimes you lose a word here and there in the lead vocals, or a guitar part or another part might get lost or is too loud. How do we fix little volume inconsistencies that we want to fix? I'm going to take the lead vocal here as an example. In my first verse, I have no drums, and then the drums come in at bar 21. How do I bring up the vocal to a better level at bar 21 or bring them down before then? First, we're going to click A. A brings up the automation window. And normally every track shows volume. For some reason here my display is off, but I can set this here on the automation menu to volume. If you don't see it, hold down Command and up and down until you see it big enough to display the automation window. Let's set this to volume and say we're going to make a change. I'm going to set my basic volume. Right now, you see a grayed out line here, and that is my volume. If I would change my fader, that gray line moves up and down. The gray line represents my basic volume. The moment I click on this line here, it goes into read mode, and my volume is now permanently established. I'm going to set my volume to a good level. Let's say this sounds good right now. About 25, I feel it's getting a bit lost. And I would die. I want to bring it a bit more up front. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to create 2 breakpoints. I want to say this is good until here, and then the next one is where I want to create the change, and then I'd simply drag this up. So when it follows that yellow line now, the fader will come up. And I would die just to find. And I set it to where I like it. And I might do this again in the chorus. Secondly, we can fix things that go out of hand. But if I want to fix a very small area, say this S here is too loud, I would have to create 4 breakpoints to do it properly, because 2 breakpoints will mess it up. I need to make 4 breakpoints nodes, as Logic calls it here, and do a change. There's a simpler way to do that. Hold down Command, which brings up your marquee tool here that we use for cutting normally. But if automation is on, I can highlight an area and simply drag it up or down. And with that, I can make super small changes. So if the T gets lost or the S is too loud, a very simple way to fix something. So great way to fix certain notes or bring down a breath or any other instrument part that you want. So now we added some volume automation offline, meaning we did it by penciling in the points of change. Let's go from the corrective volume change to a more creative change. Let's say I wanted to build up a sound, so it creates a bit of an increase of intensity towards the chorus here. So I give you an example here with my keyboard sound. This is a little reversed pad sound we created. I think that would be fun to sneak in and build up towards the chorus. I'm going to solo these parts. I'm going to find the track. I'm clicking A to make the automation visible. I click and establish the volume. I like it up to here. I want to end up there again. So what I'm going to change here is I'm going to simply draw in. So I want to create an increase of intensity. Now this particular track, you can see, is also panned slightly to the left. So not just the volume can be changed, but anything in the mixer, I said in the beginning. So what if we would actually go a little left and right and then end up in the center or slightly off center? So I'm looking at volume automation right now. But if I go to main, I could see, oh, pan, because every track has pan and volume on the mixer. And now we could automate this. This seems to be displayed in green. I'm going to click on this and it's slightly off the middle. So if I would move this towards the center, you see how this pan knob moves as well. This would be center. And what if I would start a little left? I want to end up in the middle, but then I simply double click and let this go left and right. I'm going to solo this one more time. And you saw how the pan knob moved left to right to center, right here. In context of the music, let's see if we can actually notice this. This is a cool way to make some adjustments like that are a bit more on the creative side and make it fun to listen to. All the things we've done were offline automations, meaning we pencil them in. How about online automation? This is when you record it in real time. I want to give you a couple examples for that. Volume and pan is simple to find because it's on every channel. But if you have to find other parameters, it could be tricky. Just the EQ alone has a couple dozen parameters here. So which one is the right one? Instead of digging through the menu here, I'm going to use a different method. I'm going to automate online. Meaning I'm going to record my change in the plugin. I'm going to go to latch or touch mode. Slightly different outcome, but almost the same effect. I'm going to open my plugin. And again, with V, I can hide it, view and on view off. And I'm going to find my parameter. I'm going to take this parameter. I avoid taking this because there's 3 parameters inside embedded in this one. I'm going to take just the frequency. And I'm going to see where I'm going to start, around 1000 Hertz, and then simply hit play. Don't hit record, just play. Latch is recording the changes, but not recording notes or sound. It's recording changes of parameters in this plugin. I hit play, and I'm going to start moving this parameter. And as I move, slowly opening my filter on the drums. And then I can delete it, I can erase it, I can change it, or I can smoothen it out. I like where I started, but maybe I want to start a little higher. I'm going to smoothen this out. I see I want to be, it sounded kind of good to go up here. And then see on the chorus, do I want to go fully in? Easy to manipulate this with the mouse. I hold it back a little bit more, so then in the second verse and chorus, I can maybe go all the way up to make the final payoff. Let's see how this sounds and looks. And you see how what we just did has been recorded. anything you change will be recorded. The moment I touch a different parameter, it will add a different line of automation, which would look like this. Say if I wanted to change the low frequencies or anything else, I could go. Anytime I touch anytime you add some automation here in latch, it will automate this, record that change in parameter. And you see now I can click on this triangle button and display all of them. This one didn't mean to be on. I could even turn on and off this filter. So if I wanted to have the filter on and then off, set the area and simply perform the change. That will be bypass the plugin and then turn it on again. So I hope this makes sense. So I can create really cool changes over time. Finally, once you're done and performed your change, don't forget to put it back into read mode so you don't accidentally automate. As long as it's in latch or touch, it will keep automating. Read will read back what's there, but not record any new automation changes. Finally, if you remember, Control-Shift was our fade tool. But if our automation is on, so fade is Control-Shift, but if automation is on, I can also curve this a little bit different. If I wanted to change this slightly, Control-Shift lets me create bended curves or something like that. I want to have this a little bit sneak up in the end. I can do so with Control-Shift and the mouse. Very good. There are two automation tools. You can use your automation select tool and say, I want to have the same change, and then option drag it like always in Logic somewhere else. Set this back here and copy a complex automation to a different part of the song. And the curve tool is basically like holding down Control-Shift. Very good. If things go wrong or you want to delete something, you can select a small segment, highlight those points, and hit delete if you want to. You can also control-click the track if automation window is open and say, I want to delete what's visible here right now. I'm going to undo this, or I want to delete all my automation in all of the tracks. And everything's back to where it was before. So be careful with that, but you can do it. I undid it right now to go back. So far, I've automated only audio tracks and buses. But of course, any soft synth, any internal instrument can be automated, and there's hundreds of parameters in some of these. Here's a simple example. I'm going to make my bass a little bit more evolving over time. And a great way to work with synth is usually finding the cutoff filter or the resonance. What does that do? Here on my bass, so this for a moment. I'm going to open up the plugin. I'm going to look for the cutoff frequencies. There's two here in a row, but this is the one that's more effective. It seems that because we're blending it into filter 2 here, that's the more effective one. The frequency is set to a low pass or high cut, so that makes it darker. I want to automate this. I want to take it even a step further. The same applies as we've done with the EQ on the drums. But in this case, again, if I would click A and go through the menu, you would find ES2, the synth. And where the hell is this parameter? So again, I'm simply going to latch mode and move this. But to make it even more convenient, I'm going to assign this parameter to a knob on my keyboard. Any mouse wheel or knob could do the job. And you can do it a little bit more feeling it as opposed to doing it with the mouse, which is a bit more tedious kind of action. So I'm going to click Command L. There's different ways to do it, but Command L is learn. I'm saying I want to learn this parameter. Then grab a knob on my controller, and the moment I move this, it should pick it up. Good. Sometimes you have to open the menu to change it and see it. Logic is sometimes a bit finicky. But anyway, we can work it. So here's the automation menu. I can turn learn mode off now, and it learns cutoff frequency with my knob. Let's solo a couple instruments. I'm going to do the drums. I'm in latch mode. I'm going to hit A to see the automation. I got my plugin open, and I'm going to hit play. And might be again that you have to correct a few things here and there. I can go and say, well, that was cool, but I'm gonna, since it's gonna be a straight line anyway, I got the gist of it right. But because I performed it live, it felt more natural. Let me set this to read and double check it. Bring the volume back down. Okay, I feel like this could go even further up, but you get the idea. That is if you want to automate anything in a synth. Any plugin, any parameter, you can automate that way. Finally, there are times when you don't want to automate a single track or a bus, but the actual overall output. For example, you want to do a fade out or a filter change on the overall track. Under track, go to show output track. That adds at the bottom of our screen the stereo output, which is where all the sound ends up. And say I wanted to make a volume change in the overall. I could now go click A and change the volume of the mix track. Careful to not go too loud or too soft, but let's say I want to make it a little bit more dynamic. Going from the bridge down to the breakdown and to the chorus. Let me establish my automation here and say in the bridge, I'm going to start a little lower and creep up a bit. Subtle changes here can make a big difference. I could do a fade out here if I wanted to, this way, but I usually do this on the master final mix render. What I could do though is I could say, let me automate a filter change on the overall mix. I want to make it a bit more dramatic here. In the pre-chorus, I really want to bring it and make it super intimate. I could automate things like that. You know how to do it. Simply go into latch or touch mode and record that change. So that could be done on any track, not just the tracks and the buses, but even on the stereo output or on effect tracks. And that's pretty much it. Anything in the mixer can be automated. Just have to find the knob and record it and then alter the parameter changes. So listen to your mix, see what details need to change, what has to be corrected, and then what creatively could be done to create this overall ride that keeps the listener excited. Thanks for listening, and I see you in the next section. Hey, thanks so much for watching. I hope this made sense and gives you the tools and skills to edit things very quickly in the future without spending much time and messing up your song. If you want to dig deeper, feel free to check out my course, where I start from the very beginning of writing a song to the end of production and take you step by step through the process. Thanks so much and have a great day. No matter what, stay unapologetically creative.